Alright, it's me again, and I'm using a slightly different angle so you can see a little more of the stage and maybe a little bit more of me. Hopefully the sound is just as good. I'd like to pose a question, as you can see in my title description. The question is this: what if? We live in a world that basically questions everything the Bible teaches about God, about the universe, about the earth, about humanity, about life. What if God did not create the world? What if God had not made a test for Adam and Eve in that garden? What if Noah had not followed the plan of God and tried to come up with his own? There's some more interesting what ifs. What if God had not called Abraham or Moses or David, all these great characters, in his mission plan for the earth? Now, as we look down at human history, not just biblical history, when we look down at human history, many of these characters represent specific movements in history that even those who deny the reality of the Bible cannot just simply dismiss, especially when three religions of the world more or less trace their histories back to some of those main characters, the likes of Abraham and Moses and David and on down the line. What if none of them was real? What if none of this story is real? What if the creation story, the flood story, the nativity story, the passion story, all these stories that changed the world and determined how history worked, what if none of them had been real? The question would be, how much difference would they have made to the earth? Well, for those who do not accept the Bible, they have already come to a conclusion: it would have made absolutely no difference. The world would be exactly where it is today. It's evolved in that manner. It would have evolved to this very same point. But for those who have faith, who live by some religious code, whichever one it is, that history is determinant history. Everything depends on what it does, what has happened, who has lived, who is the father of faith, who is the father of the nation, who is the redeemer, who is the savior, who is God. Because remove those what-ifs characters from the Bible story, from Christian faith, from the Judeo-Christian civilization, and everything else is then a matter of interpretation. It's a matter of who says what and who thinks this works and that works. That is unimportant. When you look at how history really changed with the so-called Enlightenment in England and the Renaissance in France and the Industrial Revolution, how they really changed the world, how we think, how science works, how we know that we know. All those questions have put these characters of the Bible, these stories of the Bible, into the back foot. As if we have to constantly defend that there is a God, there is a creator God, there is a man called Abraham, there is a man called Moses who led Israelites out of Egypt, there's a man called David who became a great king and established a kingdom called Israel, and all of these things. And then ultimately, of course, was Jesus even real? Now, from a faith point of view, whether you believe the Bible or don't believe the Bible, the options are the same. If you choose to believe what science says about the origins of life, it is still an act of faith. Now, you may not like that idea, and you may not agree with me on that idea, but it's very much an act of faith. Something that supposedly happened sometime in the universe some 13.7 billion years ago is somehow the cause of everything we see. That's a lot of faith. That can no more be proven than the Genesis statement that God created the heavens and the earth. So the what if does matter. You can be dismissive of the Bible stories and say, none of this is real, it didn't really happen, so what difference does it make? And most people in the world today live as if those stories do not matter. But then look at the results. Whenever the human race has moved away from those kinds of questions and dismissed the ideas of Scripture, which presents the highest version of morality and human life understanding. The results have always been tragic, whether it is in diseases that we have created and perpetuated, or wars that we can never seem to put an end to, or political strife that never seems to come to a terminal point. The world never seems to get better. And today we are wrestling with a problem even bigger than just wars and diseases. We call it climate change. We have made life almost unlivable on this planet, and it's only a matter of time before all of this explodes into some unlivable planet called Earth that maybe we would have to go somewhere else, to the moon, to Mars, under the sea to live. And all of those suggestions have been made by philosophers and thinkers and scientists in our world today. Because at the heart of modern science is this lingering suspicion that all that we are doing is going nowhere. We're not making life better, we're not making humans better, we're not making human civilization any better than before. The Bible offers a very different picture, a very different painting of the destiny of humanity. Not some climate catastrophe, not some nuclear holocaust, not some major world war that will bring everybody into a state of chaos, but rather a new creation. And the question then is, what if that promise is not real? Well, here's the thing about a promise like that. The practical consequences of such a hope, of such a dream, already weigh heavily in favor of that promise. So even if it were not to be real, the practical consequences are they're worth everything we have, everything we are. So even if there's no new heaven and no new earth to look forward to, we do have at least a better here and now because of such hope, such promises. And I think that's the only difference between living in the secular model and living with the Bible model. It's really that question of hope. And for somebody like me who believes that that hope is real, it's as real, as tangible, as palpable as anything that science can offer, then it's not just giving me a better life here, it is making me hopeful of a better destiny for the whole human race. Not just my personal destiny, but for the entire human race. So when we look from that macro point of view, these what-if questions do matter. What if Jesus had never come? What if God had never been interested in us? What if the earth was not created? What if there is no new heavens and new earth? They could just be a logical fallacy, a hypothesis, or they could be hope. Hope of something better. Now, we don't always see how things begin. Perhaps we could see how things end, or maybe we don't even get to see that. But that hope, at the very least, provides a degree of confidence and comfort while we are struggling with all the problems that exist in the world around us now. And so as you celebrate the Sabbath and enjoy the presence of God wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, and thinking ahead of the coming week and the months, that you will do with the realization that we are blessed. Because God didn't say, what do I do with these humans? Should I leave them alone? There's too much trouble to be worth it. But God has done, continues to do, and will do the best for us ever. And we can live with the assurance that Paul had, that nothing can ever separate us from God. Sin cannot separate us from God. Human theories and science cannot separate us from God. The loss of hope, the loss of love and faith cannot separate us from God, because God is here with us. Two of my rather favorite names for God in the Old Testament are Emmanuel, which appears in Isaiah, which means God is with us, and Yahweh Shammah, which appears at the end of the book of Ezekiel, which means God is here. And really, that's all that matters. A question of faith? Yes. But faith that is tangible? Equally yes. It may not be empirical, but it's tangible. And when we have that, it provides us that hope that the world is not going to blow itself up in some nuclear war, that we are not going to go extinct because of some climate catastrophe, but rather a new heavens and a new earth that we can look forward to forever with Christ. So enjoy the Sabbath, enjoy the coming week ahead, and know this, that God is your Emmanuel, your Yahweh Shammah. He is mine. Hopefully He is yours as well. Shabbat Shalom. God bless. Have a good week ahead.